All right, 5 a.m. Time to begin. Who has papers to show me? Chai. Yay, Natalia. Yay, Tracy, Victor, Marina, Roxana, double yay, Roxana. Okay. All right, I'm rejoicing. Let's gather our minds here, please. Sorry, I'm distracted. Let's gather our minds here. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them appear there with you just by way of your thinking of them. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you. Smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiates from them. A beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Think about how much you would like to be able to help them. And recognize that the worldly ways in which we do help only help temporarily. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they would go on to stop their distress forever? Teachings by Buddha say that that's possible. And so let that hope grow. Feel a wish that someday you will be able to help that other in some deep and ultimate way. Then turn your mind back to that precious Holy One before you. Recognize that they know what you need to know, what you need to learn, what you need to do to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamnirya Tayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we all reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. So next I would like to read our verses again. So translators, you're welcome to just read it in your language. You don't have to wait for me to say it. Okay? You got it? Yeah, so you're ready? Okay, excuse me, I have to change glasses. All right, so again, just listen. The three principal paths. I bow to all the high and holy lamas. As far as I am able, I will explain the essence of all high teachings of the victors, the path that all their holy sons commend, the entry point for the fortunate seeking freedom. Listen with a pure mind. Fortunate ones who have no craving for the pleasures of life, and who, to make leisure and fortune meaningful, strive to turn their minds to the path which pleases the victors. There is no way to end without pure renunciation, this striving for pleasant results in the ocean of life. It is because of their hankering life as well that beings are fettered, so seek renunciation first. Leisure and fortune are hard to find. Life is not long. Think it constantly. Stop desire for this life. Think over and over how deeds and their fruits never fail, and the cycle is suffering. Stop desire for the future. When you have meditated thus and feel not even a moment's wish for the good things of cyclic life, and when you begin to think both day and night of achieving freedom, you have found renunciation. Renunciation, though, can never bring the total bliss of matchless Buddhahood unless it is bound by the purest wish. And so, the wise seek the high wish for enlightenment. They are swept along on 4 fierce river currents, chained up tight in past deeds, hard to undo, stuffed in a steel cage of grasping self, smothered in the pitch black ignorance. In limitless rounds they are born, and in their births are tortured by 3 sufferings without a break. Think how your mothers feel. Think of what's happening to them. Try to develop this highest wish. You may master renunciation and the wish, but unless you have the wisdom perceiving reality, you cannot cut the root of cyclic life. Make efforts in ways then to perceive interdependence. A person has entered the path that pleases the Buddhas when, for all objects in the cycle or beyond, he sees that cause and effect can never fail, and when for them, they lose all solid appearance. You have yet to realize the thought of the able, as long as two ideas seem to you disparate, the appearance of things, infallible interdependence, and emptiness beyond taking any position. At some point, they no longer alternate, come together. Just seeing that interdependence never fails brings realization that destroys how you hold two objects. And then your analysis with view is complete. In addition, the appearance prevents the existence extreme, emptiness, that of non-existence. And if you see how emptiness shows in cause and effect, you will never be stolen off by extreme views. When you have grasped, as well as I, the essential points of each of the three principal paths explained, then go into isolation, my child, make mighty efforts, and quickly win your ultimate wish. So here's the quiz. Who wrote that? I'm really asking. I have a finger. I will point somebody out unless you volunteer. Going once, going twice.
Jetson Kappa, Dear Lama, he wrote it.
Oh, Jetson Kappa, what's his monk's name?
Oh, it's Lobsan Drakpa.
And his dates?
It was like 13, or that I 13 something.
I see everybody's lips moving.
1357
to 1419.
1419.
Good job. What's the actual name of those 14 stanzas?
The principal paths.
Ah, thank you, Chris. The three principal paths. Principal PLE.
BAL.
No, PLE, truths. The three truths we need to realize, not three important things. I had to look it up.
Oh, I have it backwards.
Me too. I did for years. My notes are backwards.
Yeah.
So thank you for that person who made me look it up. PLE is a noun, meaning a truth, and PAL is something that's most important. So it's more an adjective, but it can also be used as a noun, as in the principal of your school. But here it's PLE, because we're making the point that those three principles that we're learning are not what's most important about Buddhism, although they are, but they are three truths that we need to make real for ourselves. Do you see the difference?
In the homework, though, it says PAL.
I know it does, and it's a mistake.
Really?
Yeah,
That's just too hard.
I know it is. So not to worry, don't mark yourself off if you put PAL. But I want it clear in your mind as you're studying, these three are truths that we're coming to understand. And a truth isn't a truth until we have some personal experience that makes it so for us. So we're going to learn later that Buddha, the teacher, himself said, what I'm teaching you don't take it as truth until you prove it to yourself. Yeah, sure. Yeah, Tracy. Truths are the most important thing. But I'm trying to make this distinction, right, in how we're learning it. 3 things that we need to realize ourselves. Okay? So we learn about them intellectually. That's my job. And then I'm also supposed to inspire you to work with them in life until you have some experience of them where you go, oh, how did I miss that before? Right? And then it's true for you. And part of the teachings is to show us that because it becomes true for me, doesn't mean it's automatically true for everyone until they learn and apply and come to see. But then their truth is unique to them. Your truth is unique to you, right? No need to fight about truths. And it's another level of mistake that we have. Oh, once I prove the truth, my truth must be true for everybody. And yet, karma and emptiness is true. And it is true for everybody. But not in the way we are thinking about it. And we're just learning. Okay, so not to worry. In your course materials, you have a reading, which is a commentary on Tsongkhapa's verses. Who wrote that commentary?
Rinpoche.
Pabonka Rinpoche. And his dates, I didn't give them to you, I'm giving them to you now. 1878 to 1941. I said 72, I was mistaken. 1878. In the United States, that was 20 years after the Civil War. And in Tibet, Pabonka Rinpoche is teaching these extraordinary teachings. Think about what was going on in your country in the late 1800s. How different things might have been if we had a Pabonka Rinpoche. And then your last quiz question was, what were those 3 problems of the pot? What 3 qualities should a Dharma student not have?
It's a close lead, dirty pot, and leaky pot.
Right. And what do those mean? Lid on means not open-minded. Dirty pot means wrong motivation. And leaky pot means not making the effort to retain, okay, to work at it, to learn it. Okay, good, well done. Oh no, there's one more. What are these 3 principal LE paths that are also AL paths? What are these 3 principal paths? Roxana?
They're the 3 scopes, right, Julema?
No.
No, the 3 principal paths. Oh, renunciation. I'm sorry. It's renunciation. Is the other one is the wish for enlightenment, and the other one is, oh, I'm missing it.
Help her out.
It's, I don't know. I don't remember. I thought you were talking about the 3 scopes.
No.
I had that one.
What are these 3 realizations we're talking about? Renunciation. Bodhicitta.
Bodhicitta, yes.
I want to be a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings.
And
And
wisdom.
Correct view of emptiness.
correct view of emptiness. Technically correct view of the marriage of karma and emptiness. We'll get there. So correct worldview. Good, nice. Okay, so as Buddha was teaching, he really did keep saying, you know, don't just take what I say as truth, work with it, prove it to yourself. And then, you know, well, I would have to say, well, how do I do that? You know, because it seems like in order to prove something to ourselves, we have to know a really lot about it. Or there must be some method to be able to prove things. And, you know, he taught his students logic, but that just sounds really too scary. And so Geshe Michael says clear thinking, which is much more engaging, I agree. But it really is learning how to think logically. And in my own experience, thinking back, I was a good student in school. I went to college. I ended up with 2 bachelor's degrees and 2 master's degrees. I knew how to work hard. I knew how to take tests. So I could do it. And then I met the Dharma, and I actually learned how to think. And I realized all of my schooling just taught me how to be a good parrot. But it didn't teach me how to think, even though I took a logic class. I learned, right, I learned the method. I got an A in that class, but I didn't actually learn it. Like I'm telling on myself. And then once I studied the ACI, and once I was asked to share it with others, oh my gosh. I saw that this method of how to really think through the ramifications of something that I was believing to be true, to see if it really was true, was so useful, so powerful. And it brought up in me this, I don't know, kind of weird sense of humor that recognizes the absurdity, right, of my human condition, of the things I expect and the things that I think and the things that I say, you know, out loud to my husband. The reasons I use for things are just absurd, and they make me laugh now. Whereas it used to be, if somebody didn't agree with me, you know, I'd get mad and I wouldn't like them so much. I mean, I had the self-control not to blast at them, but it was like, okay, they're off. They're, you know, not them, because they agree with me, like that. And it was like, oh my gosh. So it's not very heart inspiring to be thinking, you know, I'm taking classes to learn how to think better. But the result was, it did open my heart. And so I'm hoping, like, my job is to get you there. So please stay with me here. So this particular class, the whole class isn't about, but it was Geshe Michael's introduction to this idea of using logic. And it's just in class 2 of course 1. Yikers. It's a topic called mu, she, mu, sum. Can you see that? I can't really see it in my camera. All right. Mu, she, mu, sum. Mu means permutations or combinations. Mu, she means 4 combinations. Mu, sum means 3 combinations. So mu, she, mu, sum just means the 3 or 4 combinations or 3 or 4 permutations. So let me see if I can put it in some context just briefly. When we are learning to clear think, there's a method that we are taught. So to make a logical statement, we state the topic of discussion. Statement number 1. Statement number 2 is we state our assertion about the topic. And statement number 3 is our reason for our assertion about the topic. And then our investigation to see whether our reason proves the assertion about the topic goes like this. We are supposed to check to make sure that statement number 3, the reason, and the topic have some relationship of some kind, right? If we called it a equation, we have the 3 statements. We compare the statement 1 and statement 3. Do they apply? If they don't, then your argument doesn't hold. You throw the whole thing out. If they do, then the second step is to look at statement number 3 and say, if 3 were true, would that necessarily mean that statement 2 would have to be true? Not whether it's true in life, just if. It's an if then. So just as I am principle impaired, I am then and than impaired. So I don't know if it should be if 3 then 2 or if 3 then 2. You translators, you can tell me you know better. I wrote it than. If, then. If the second check is not true, it doesn't hold up, you throw your whole argument out. If it does hold up, you check one more thing. And that is you negate statement 2. You negate what you assert and see whether that automatically negates statement 3. If it does, it means your statement has passed all 3 tests. And you have confirmed the assertion about your topic. So now the question is, how do we do this comparing? How do we compare 1 and 3? How do we compare statement 2 to statement 3 to statement 2? How do we compare not 3 and not 2? And that's the mu, she, mu, sum. So I'll explain it again, but I'm going to use an example, right? Because this is too abstract. And I'll come back to my board. So let's make they call it a syllogism. The topic of consideration is virtue as a cause of Buddhahood. So we might state topic 1, virtue is always a cause of, let's consider virtue. Statement number 2, virtue is always a cause of Buddhahood. Why? I don't have a why. Why? Because Buddhahood is a good result. Buddhahood is a pleasant result. So somebody write that down, please, so that we can look at it again. Just put it in the chat so everybody has it. So statement 1 is, what did I say? Let's consider virtue. Statement number 3 was, because Buddhahood is a pleasant outcome. Is there a relationship between virtue and Buddhahood being pleasant? So in order to even answer that question, we would need to know what we mean by virtue. And so it's a little bit slippery, because virtue means any mental imprint, any deed, thought, speech, word done whose result is pleasant is a virtue. Any deed done whose result brings an unpleasant is a non-virtue. But it's not what happens immediately after. It's the actual result of the deed. So that puts a little different spin. But for right now, let's just say virtue is a deed that will bring a good result, a pleasant result. What was our conclusion? Our reason was that it's pleasant to be a Buddha. Does it's pleasant to be a Buddha have a relationship with a virtue being a deed that'll bring a pleasant result? Yes, there's a relationship there. So we would say, okay, we can check the next piece of the syllogism. If it's true that it's pleasant to be a Buddha, then it must be true that virtue is its cause. Does that hold true? Now, Geshe-la was a little tricky. In his example, he said, virtue is always a cause of Buddhahood. And that throws a little spin in it. And so when we're comparing Buddhahood as a pleasant result, if that's true, is it then also true that virtue must always cause Buddhahood? And in order to check that out, that's where this mushi musum technique comes in. So this mushi musum is this method where we are checking to see if there exists a condition where, again, I have this algorithm that I need to use abstractly. If we have made two statements, A statement and B statement, the first combination, mu number 1, is can we find in our experience a situation where A exists, but not B? Mu number 1. Mu number 2, can we find a situation where B exists and not A? Mu number 3, you know what's coming. Does there exist a situation of both A and B existing? And mu number 4, is there conditions where neither exist? So those are all the possible combinations for two things, right? To have a relationship of any kind. So we're checking, this is the method we use to check whether we can confirm if 3 then 2, and then we use the same method to check if not 2 then not 3. Because just because we confirm statement 2 does not yet say that the syllogism holds. It has to pass all 3 of these tests, and we use this method for checking to see if it passes. Okay, you with me so far? So let's try it. Let's say statement A is cause for Buddhahood, and statement B is virtue, a deed that will bring a good result. Is there any combination where we could find a cause for virtue, a cause for Buddhahood that is not a virtue? No, right? Any non-virtue will bring a result that's unpleasant. Can Buddhahood be unpleasant in any way? Not in be Buddhahood. So we would have to say that mu number 1 doesn't hold. Non-virtue does not make Buddhahood. All right, that's starting to confirm our syllogism, right? So we're just thinking this, we are no conclusion yet. B is virtue, A is cause for Buddhahood. Are there virtues, B, that are not causes for Buddhahood? Are there deeds that we do that bring good, pleasant results, but don't bring us to Buddhahood? Sure, right? We do kindnesses all the time. Those kindnesses will bring us a pleasant experience, but a pleasant experience that wears out. So then you could take your debate in that direction, where you'd go, well, if it's a pleasant result that wears out, it's a suffering, in which case it's not really a virtue. But you don't say that to beginners, because then they say, well, then nothing good that I do is worth doing good, because it's all just going to perpetuate more suffering. And Buddha says, yeah, you're getting close to your renunciation. Recognizing that our kindness deeds are limited by something when we make them in a way that when they ripen as pleasure that wears out. So we could say it's not true that virtue always brings Buddhahood. If by virtue we mean a kindness done missing something, right? A kindness that brings us a pleasantness that wears out. So mu number 2, are there virtues that don't cause Buddhahood? Yes. Mu number 3, are there things that are both A and B, virtues that cause Buddhahood? So we hope so, right? And that may require, 3 more years of classes to sort out. And to answer that question, are there virtues that do cause Buddhahood? We need to know, how is it that one becomes a Buddha? What are the causes for Buddhahood really? Because maybe we thought we knew, but when we start actually digging in to answer the question, are there conditions that are both A and B, virtues that do cause Buddhahood? How do I know? Okay. So the punchline is kindness deeds done under the influence of our state of mind of renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct worldview is what makes those kindnesses the kindnesses that will be a cause of your Buddhahood. So there are virtues that are causes of Buddhahood when they are done under the influence of this state of mind that's influenced by renunciation of wrong worldview, bodhicitta, wanting everybody to reach their ultimate happiness, and correct worldview, the understanding of the marriage of the deeds that I do being the cause of my future, and that lack of self-exist, the lack of things as identities in them. Karma and emptiness. So now when we go back and look at that term virtue, we're going to learn these different lists of virtues and non-virtues. And we can't help but thinking that that deed of a non-virtue is bad in and of itself. The 10 non-virtues: killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, useless speech, jealousy, ill will, not believing in karma and emptiness, not believing in past and future lives. Those, killing is just unkind, period, no matter what. But now we're learning that when you flip those around, the virtue protecting life, we can protect life, but without this higher state of mind, it is a goodness. The result will be our life is protected in some way, but it won't necessarily be a result bringing Buddhahood. But it could be if our protecting life was motivated with this mind of renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct worldview. So the same deed, the same kindness, done with a different state of mind, brings a different result, right? So Geshe-la's example, if we have cockroaches in our kitchen. Eek, cockroach, smack, right? Is our natural reaction. And it's what we're taught to do. And we're considered very odd if you go, no, 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 don't smash it, right? It was my mother. I will catch it. I will put it out. And then even when we put it out, do we just put it out on the hot pavement, or do we find it in a nice place under a log? No, it reveals our level of concern for that creature. Is it a being, or is it eek, cockroach? Right? So our old world view says kill the cockroach before it, causes disease. They apparently are really very, very clean creatures, I understand. But once we have determined that my world is broken and I want to fix it, even if my renunciation is purely for myself, then how can I justify killing that cockroach if I'm trying to fix my broken world, where killing something can only bring an unpleasant result of me being killed in some way, or somebody I love being harmed in some way? Yeah, as we learn correct worldview, karma and emptiness, we can't help but apply it to our behaviors. And that's the whole idea, right? Is to have this state of mind. I want to stop making my karmas in the same old way. Renunciation. Bodhicitta is going to be not just for myself, but for everybody. And correct worldview is necessary for us to be able to understand how to apply how to choose our new behavior. We could just say, teacher, tell me what to do. And maybe we'd have enough goodness to really apply ourselves. But at some point, enough yak poop will hit the fan. And what our authority figure tells us to do will not hold up. Right? We become like teenagers, don't tell me what to do, tell me why to do it, and then maybe. Yeah, we're like that. So these teachings teach us the principles and how to think it through, and empower us to make our own decisions about our behavior. So instead of justifying killing the cockroach, you justify trying to protect it. Does that mean you leave it in your kitchen and feed it? Well, if you want to, you can, right? If you live by yourself, maybe you could get away with that. But, right, we can find a happy medium. I can find it someplace else to live. And there's a very sweet story about Rinpoche and Geshe Michael in Howell, New Jersey, and they got cockroaches because of something Geshe Michael did, he admits. And Rinpoche's response was, he figured out that they loved the dog food. So he'd put a big garbage bag with the bowl of dog food on the floor in the kitchen. And in the middle of the night, he'd get up, and without flipping on the light, he would just gather the garbage bag, dog food and all, take it out to the compost, empty the dog food and the cockroaches into the compost so they had their food to eat and they have a nice place to live. And then, he'd do it again the next evening. Apparently he needed to do that for, I don't know, a month or so. And the cockroaches finally quit coming. And they didn't have any more after that. You know, we go, well, how does that work? Karma and emptiness. Yeah. Okay. So, number one, with the cockroach, I've determined to get free of suffering existence. So I'm not willing to harm that creature in that way anymore. Number two level might be, I've even generated some level of wish for total enlightenment for everybody. And killing that creature will prevent me from achieving my goal, right, soon. And the longer I delay, right, the longer everybody gets delayed from my side, from my world. Then thirdly, when I have this more and more correct view about the marriage of karma and emptiness, I see that this is a perfect opportunity to burn off the seeds of, I don't know, having caused cockroaches, been a cockroach, I don't know. A perfect opportunity to burn off those seeds and plant protecting life seeds. And I can even dedicate it to that cockroach's ultimate happiness someday. Because in order for me to see that, I have to get there too. So, simple deed of protecting a bug's life with this right state of mind, this accurate state of mind, becomes a cause for your own Buddhahood. Simple act of brushing our teeth, doing the dishes, going to the grocery store, all the kindnesses we already do can become causes for Buddhahood, depending on our state of mind as we're doing it. Okay? So if we go back to our statement, virtue always causes Buddhahood, we would have to say, no, that's not correct. Unless we say virtue means a kindness done under the influence of renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct worldview, which technically they call that merit. So we're learning vocabulary. Our particular tradition with Geshe Michael is very precise in its vocabulary. And I have very little experience anymore with other teaching traditions, but when I didn't have the seeds for that kind of precise vocabulary, and now I do. So it may be that if you have interaction with other spiritual traditions, we can get to where we just assume that they have clarified a difference between kindness, virtue, and merit. And we might use those words thinking we know they know what we mean, and they don't necessarily. Which also means we don't necessarily understand the way they're using their words. And we might want to open our minds, right? And ask, what do you mean by prayer? What do you mean by meditation? Yeah, so we could learn from each other. So we are making this distinction between merit, which is deeds done under the influence of correct worldview, bodhicitta, and renunciation, and virtue, which is highly intentional kindness and plain old kindness, which is being polite. Right? So different levels, they're all will bring a nice result. The highest result comes from merit. So if we've defined it like that, then our syllogism could be merit is the cause of Buddhahood. And then we'd say, right, because we just established that as the definition of merit. That doesn't prove anything, which is true. But now we have this method. A, not B, B, not A, both A and B. And then the last one is, are there situations that are both not virtue and not causes of Buddhahood? Yes, right? Every selfish moment in my day is non-virtue and not Buddhahood causing. Okay, so I know it's not making much sense, but remember, you're at Krayat's open, we're pouring the water into the teapot, the tea is being made. So not to worry. Let's take a break. No, Roxana, that's fine.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Jen.
Yeah, just let me know it's done. Okay. Translators, let me know when you're ready. One thumbs up. 2. Okay. 3. 4. All right. All right, let's go. So, well, let's not go. Marina says no. Say when.
Please, Vietnamese translator, change your channel. You in English channel now. Come back to Vietnamese channel, please. Sorry. Yes, now good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So our question would be, well, how is it that renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct worldview are necessary to make our kindnesses the causes for our Buddhahood? Like, how does that relationship work? And that's the rest of this class, so that we have the information we need to be able to apply our thinking about learning what our cause is for Buddhahood. So where Geshe Michael started with that is with this concept called Chakya Chimpo. Chakya Chimpo is the Tibetan. Please say Chakya Chimpo.
Chakya Chimpo.
And in Sanskrit, it's Mahamudra,
Mahamudra.
which literally translated means the great seal. Maha means great. Mudra is seal, S-E-A-L, not the animal. Chakya means seal. Chempo means great seal. Mudra or Chakya also has the connotation or the meaning of a hand gesture, right? When we offer the pure world, we do this mudra. It's a manifestation, a representation of something we're trying to create. I don't know, I don't usually teach this here, but I see people trying. How do you do that? You put your hands together and cross your pinkies. Take your thumbs and hold your pinkies down. Put your 2 ring fingers and back to back, stick them straight up. Then your other 2 fingers are hanging out here. Cross your middle fingers. See them? Then take index finger and hold the 2 crossed middle fingers down. Turn it all up. And you've got Mount Meru, Central Mountain, and the 4 continents. 1, 2, 3, 4. The pure world. So let's do it again. Pinkies cross. Wait a minute. Pinkies cross, thumbs hold them down. Middle ring fingers come up. Middle fingers cross. Index fingers hold them down. Mount Meru, the 4 continents. Inside is all kinds of amazing, beautiful things. Then when you're done with this offering, you turn it inside out and send it. Yeah, nice. So that's a mudra. It's a seal of some kind, which I still don't understand. The term seal, chakya, is also used in the sense of, in the olden days before envelopes had, licky stuff on it, you had a wax and you melted the wax and you put your chop and you sealed the envelope with the wax, and the chop had your identifier on it so that whoever received the envelope could look at the chop and go, oh, I received a letter from Sarahni, and I know that it's authentic because it's sealed shut, right? The wax has not been broken. So they say the king has his seal that he travels with always, because, when he had to write something, he wanted to make sure that it got there intact and not manipulated by anybody. So he seals it with wax. She seals it with wax with their chop. So it means an identifier, right? A critical, important identifier for the king. Chakya tempo. There's other meanings of chakya too that we will learn later. So this word, Mahamudra, is the word that they use for the direct perception of emptiness, because that's the great seal. That's the great identifier that makes the difference in our own mind from ordinary suffering being to a being who is on the conveyor belt to transformation. We need to step back a little bit so that I know you know something about what I'm talking about. So when we use the term emptiness, you've probably all heard it already, but let's do really quickly this explanation of what we mean by emptiness, which is what is meant by no self or no self nature, because it's such a critical point. So, such a simple example to get ourselves there cognitively, intellectually. What is this thing, right? You know, did it right? Anyway, it's a pen. I just demonstrate by writing on my hand. It didn't write because I'm sweaty. Anyway, here's a pen, okay? We see it as a pen. We know it as a pen. In walks a dog. I offer this to the dog. What do? They sniff it. Maybe they chew it. Maybe they run off with it and enjoy it or bury it or I don't know what. What do I see the dog doing? I see the dog chewing on a pen, don't I? What does the dog see itself doing? Just imagine. Does the dog see itself chewing on a pen? The dog's just chewing on the thing I offered them. Yeah, so the dog's chewing on his chew thing. I'm seeing the dog chew on my pen. I'm using my pen to explain something. What does that tell us about where the identity of this object comes from? Just think it through. If the same object is for me a pen and for the dog a chew toy, can the identity be in this coming at us. Why not? Because if it were in it, from it, it would make me see it in its way, and the dog see it in its way. So dog and I would both have to perceive the same thing. And even if we say, no, the pen can be in it and the dog can chew a pen and a person can write with a pen, that doesn't negate the pen being a pen in it. But it does, because if even the pen in it allows itself to be chewed by the dog and allows itself to be written with by humans, it's depending on that situation of the dog and its relationship, or the human and its relationship, to be what it is. So it's still dependent for what it is and how it's used by who's using it, who's perceiving it. So, okay, for pen, when we say, all right, I see that the pen's identity isn't radiating from it the way I thought, I do experience it as a pen. So it must be something about me that makes that object a pen. And that's what we mean by the no self nature of the pen. That's what we mean by the pen is empty of its identity being in it. It does not mean there's no pen here at all. It in fact means that's what makes this object a pen, is that because this object has no nature, it's available for us to apply the nature that we do. So I have this turquoise colored pen that's a different experience for me than it is for you. We all agree it's pen. That's what it is to be human. But we all recognize that each one is experiencing it uniquely, and that reveals to us the emptiness of the pen. Turn that to me, right? Do it with my me first, and then you're going to do it with your own me. Here's me, Sarahni. I'm having a certain experience, looking at all your beautiful faces, and I'm assuming you're having the same experience as me, but of course you're not. Each one of you is experiencing me unique to you. Some, this is the first time you've heard me. Others, we spent 10 days together recently. Others, I'm very familiar with online, but never met in person. Okay? Everybody knows me a little differently. Technically, I know myself differently moment by moment. That gets a little scary. And that reveals the emptiness of me, my me, my lack of self-nature is my actual nature, which allows me to be for you whatever I am right now. May it be pleasant. May it be useful. May it bring you to Buddhahood someday. Our interaction is no different. My state of mind, which you may or may not be aware of, depending on whether you're Buddha or not. but I'm aware of it. So my emptiness makes me real for you in the way that you experience me. Now turn that on to your own self. Your own emptiness is what allows you to be you for you in your unique way, and is what allows you to be the you that anyone else experiences in the way that they do. Totally available. So in one sense, how others experience us is not our responsibility. It's their seeds ripening. How we respond to them interacting with us is our responsibility. Because that is where why we experience things in the way that we do comes from. So let's go back to the pen. We've established, we see pen, dog sees chew toy, because the pen lacks its identity, nature in it, from it, all by itself. We would ask, well, then why? What makes me take this information and turn it into pen, and makes a dog turn it into a chew toy, and a fly turn it into a landing pad, and whatever else for whomever else? Why? And the punchline, we get the punchline, oh, karmic results. But we're gonna try to learn how to walk that through. The experiencing a pen is a result of something. Causes for results have to be similar in some way and happen before the result we learn. So in order to have this experience of this pen, it's the ripening result of some cause. We call it some mental imprint that we made in the past. How do we make mental imprints? We make mental imprints as we are aware of what we are thinking, saying, doing towards what we perceive as other. What we are aware of ourselves thinking, saying, doing towards other makes this imprint on that consciousness that is added to by similar imprints and detracted from by opposite imprints, and those imprints gain in strength until they cross some threshold, which I don't quite understand how that happens, when it happens. And when they cross the threshold, they become experience, they become result. The result is our experience. How we respond to the result makes the new imprint that will be future experience. This is happening constantly. Experience, experience, experience. Experience, respond, experience, respond, experience, respond. That's me and my world. Our automatic reactions to things are driven by the seeds planted by automatic responses to things, all colored with the mind that believes the identities are in them. My identity is in me, and my world is coming at me. When in truth, right, these karmic seed ripening experiences are coming from my past behavior into my current experience, and I respond, creating my future. So our power is in our response. Our loss of power is in our reactions, because our reactions are driven by our misunderstanding. Our responses, carefully chosen, can be driven by renunciation, bodhicitta, correct worldview, so that our responses to anything, well motivated, can become causes for Buddhahood. Understanding emptiness is the key to setting in motion this ability to shift from react mode to respond mode. It requires the development of a high level of mindfulness, off the cushion mindfulness, which we cultivate by on the cushion mindfulness, which is why we learn to meditate, so that our awareness becomes more and more subtle, and we can catch our behavior before reaction happens and choose response instead. That's the practice, right? That's the task of our spiritual life. So the term Mahamudra refers to the state of mind, not the state of mind, the quality of mind, when we are directly perceiving that lack of identity of things and self. Every time we hear the pen thing, think the pen thing, we are having a perception of emptiness, an intellectual perception of emptiness. The automatic recognition then that, oh, what I do plants imprint seeds in my mind, that's understanding dependent origination that we call karma, right? The law of cause and effect, real cause and real effects. We can have a high enough intellectual understanding of these principles to be able to choose different, wiser responses. But we don't actually damage our misunderstanding, right? Our automatic belief that the identity is in the other, until we have the direct experience of things' lack of those natures. And that's the experience that is called the direct perception of emptiness. In that state, you're not aware that you're doing it. You don't realize what it was until you're out of it. And actually, all of the training that we have about it, going into it, informs our interpretation of it after we're out. Which is why it's so important and useful to study these ideas. And it becomes the 6 flavors of emptiness, because there are these 6 different levels of the lack of self nature that we will naturally find ourselves in as we're trying to learn how to use this information. So Mahamudra Chakya Chenpo is code word for seeing emptiness directly. It only lasts 20 minutes or so for the first time. And it's a long time before you might do it again. It's a result of huge amounts of goodness. Once we've had that experience, one of the qualities of it is that we know we're not crazy. We know what it was. We know, right? And nobody will ever be able to tell us differently. So it's one of those experiences that we have that changes us really dramatically from the inside, because we've directly experienced something that we had never directly experienced and recognized before. And now we have. And as a result, you never really believe things are the way they appear again. Coming out of that direct experience of ultimate reality, you go back to seeing your world in the same old way, as if the other is out there coming at us, but we know it's not true. We know we're under this delusion, illusion, they call it. We know we're experiencing illusions, and we know what to do about it. We know that we're burning off all of those past seeds that were colored with that belief of things in them. We have those seeds still. We need to burn them off. It takes time, but we're burning them off as rapidly as they're ripening because we don't believe them anymore. Do you see? So they say after direct perception of emptiness, you are on the conveyor belt to the end of your suffering. If you went into that experience with, they say, a mind imbued with bodhicitta, then when you come out of it, the conveyor belt that you are on is your conveyor belt to Buddhahood, not just the end of your own suffering, which is a state of mind we call nirvana. We'll learn more. So the correct worldview is finally fully established after our direct perception of emptiness. Before then, we are cultivating it. We are damaging our ignorant seeds every time we think of emptiness and dependent origination. But to get onto that conveyor belt, requires this direct perception. The direct perception in someone whose motivation for that experience is in order to become one who can help others in that deep and ultimate way, will make that experience the cause for that result. So they use the term a mind imbued with bodhicitta, so that our direct perception of emptiness is also imbued with bodhicitta. And that means its result will be our Buddhahood rather than nirvana. So the correct worldview is this understanding emptiness, growing into its direct perception. And the ramification of the empty nature of all things is that it's by way of our behavior that makes them appear in the way that they do. That's dependent origination. So correct worldview is this pair, emptiness and dependent origination, understood to be two sides of one coin, not this over here and that over here, and they touch from time to time. But the explanation for reality is this pair. When we take that understanding and recognize, oh, it's my behavior, then that makes the appearances be what they are going to be in the future. I want my behavior to be directed in such a way that I can become one who can help everyone become one, who can help everyone become one, who can help everyone become one. I can't stop saying it. Do you see? Because we don't become Buddhas and end our career. Our Buddhahood is the start of our career. Where at Buddhahood, we now know directly how to help others reach that state too. Because they will want to reach it to help everybody in their world. So when I say everybody, my mind automatically is thinking all humans. But we mean every conscious being. And then they use the term living being, which my mind goes living versus dead. But no, it means conscious being. Wherever they are, whatever they're like, right? So my parents died many, many years ago. But the conscious being that was them is still somewhere. And right, they're included in my all sentient beings. The gnat, the mosquito, the cockroach, that nasty neighbor. Yeah. Not leaving a single one out. And that's where the human practice comes. It's easy to do this for people we love. It gets easier to do it for neutral people. It's hard to do it for people we don't like. And we may say, oh, there's nobody I don't like. Right, declare that out loud and wait and see what happens. So I'm trying to weave together. What am I trying to weave together? Why the three principal paths are necessary realizations for making our kindnesses into causes for Buddhahood. So, correct worldview, number one. Once we've experienced emptiness directly, they say 7 more lifetimes, probably, in order to burn off those remnants of ignorance and selfishness. 7 lifetimes, roughly 500 years. Those lifetimes will all be ones where you're able to cultivate yourself. You'll be in some training, some spiritual path. 500 years isn't so long compared to the eons we've been at this, right? And then they say, well, 500 years unless you follow the diamond way, the secret way, called Tantra, but Tantra has a bad connotation. So let's call it the secret way. Secret path is designed for us to burn off our negativity faster and plant the merit stronger so that it ripens sooner, so that we can theoretically make this transformation before the physical body in which you have your direct perception of emptiness dies, wears out. It's karma. It is a swift path. It's a difficult path to do well enough to, not be setting oneself back, like high risk, high gain kind of thing. And so, one's question would be, well, why not just go straight to Tantra then? Why aren't we just teaching the Diamond Way straight up? And the Diamond Way isn't the Diamond Way. It doesn't work until we have these three realizations, the three principal paths. So before having the full-on direct perception of emptiness, the Diamond Way isn't really even full-on Diamond Way, it's just seeds for Diamond Way. And without a strong foundation in emptiness and karma and morality and why, even if we were to take on the practices of the Diamond Way, we wouldn't understand them well enough to stay with them as the yak poop hits the fan, which sometimes comes as greater and greater pleasures, not unpleasant. But we can be fooled and distracted by greater and greater pleasures, just as much as we can get discouraged by greater and greater hardnesses, difficulties. So a proper teacher, I shouldn't say it like that, a teacher who's trained to share the Diamond Way would make it their purpose to cultivate their student before they offered them Diamond Way, to be sure that they had the strong foundation that would allow them to be successful in the Diamond Way, and not offer it sooner than that. So yes, there is a faster method. The faster method actually starts to happen by itself when we apply ourselves carefully to renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct worldview. And the Diamond Way can start to happen even without initiation and all those practices, because the Diamond Way is a manifestation of a more and more pure heart, a more and more compassion, love, motivated heart. And we start seeing the beings in our world in this different way, as everyone trying to help us instead of everyone out to get us. And that is the Diamond Way starting. It comes from our own shifts in our own behavior, in our interaction with others. Not great, big, save the world things. Just do all the kindnesses you already do with this higher sense of why. And that's progress on our path. All right. Oh, man. So what's the relationship between three principal paths: renunciation, bodhicitta, correct worldview, and Mahamudra? And the relationship between that and successful Diamond Way practice. There's a question on your homework. So Renunciation means we've recognized we're living in and perpetuating a broken world, a mistaken world. And both pleasant things and unpleasant things, you know, I'm misunderstanding them all. And I'm sick to death of it. And I want to stop doing it. So I'm willing to do whatever I need to do to fix it. Number one. Number two, I recognize that even if I use the practices to reach the state where I'm free of all my distress, and I'm living in a world where other beings are still misunderstanding their world, then my own distress freeness is unacceptable. That's really not my goal. My goal is to help them all get free of their distress. Now that I see that any distress I see in them is in fact coming from my past seeds. They are then the arena within which I can burn off those past seeds of selfishness and ignorance and plant new seeds for a pure world for everybody. And it can only come from me, and I can only make it by trying to help them learn how to do it. Yeah. So I need bodhicitta, that state of mind that understands that suffering is unnecessary, has some idea that there's an alternative, and grows my heart to want everybody to know that too. Bodhicitta. The words are, I want to reach my total Buddhahood so I can help everybody reach theirs. We'll learn more and more. So renunciation and bodhicitta, and we've already talked about why correct worldview motivates those two. Renunciation would not be a useful thing if we didn't understand that there's some alternative. Bodhicitta would not be a useful thing if we didn't understand that Buddhahood is not just possible, but inevitable. Correct worldview is a result of kindnesses done motivated by renunciation, and bodhicitta deepens our correct worldview. Correct worldview deepens our renunciation and grows our bodhicitta, right? They're not three rungs on a ladder. They're three trees in an orchard that were growing at the same time. So what do we need to know to be able to create our future Buddhahood? There are two main causes for Buddhahood, top and sharab. We're almost done. Oh, there it is. I had done it already. Sorry. We're almost done. Hang in there, please. Top and sharab. These are Tibetan words. Top means method. Sharab means wisdom. So method and wisdom are the names for the two main causes for our future Buddhahood. Top method means what seeds we plant by way of our behavior. And what seeds we plant, our behavior choices are driven by our growing renunciation and bodhicitta. So top means our method side, and it's influenced by renunciation and bodhicitta. Sherab means wisdom, and that's influenced by our correct worldview. The stronger our understanding of emptiness and dependent origination, the better choices we can make about our behavior. So these two come together. They're making separate imprints in our mind, not separate. The imprints have Sherab and they have top aspects. Why that's important is because the method side is making the causes for the form bodies of our Buddhahood, and the Sherab seeds are making the causes for our mental body of our Buddhahood. So we're talking about your Buddha you. It will have two main, they call them bodies, but they're not separate bodies. They're two main aspects. One is called the Chukku or Dharmakaya in Sanskrit. And that means the mind side. The mind side of your Buddha will be omniscient, and it will be perceiving the lack of self nature of all existing things, simultaneous with the appearing side of all things, all times. Emptiness. The form body of your Buddha you is called the Sukhu, Rupakaya in Sanskrit. And that's your appearance, what your appearance will be. It has two aspects. One is your pure and perfect, exquisite form in your Buddha paradise. And the other is your pure and exquisite forms as your emanation beings. Your compassion manifests as being what any being needs to give up or take up. Your omniscience knows how to help them. Your paradise you is in paradise all along, and your emptiness you is always there. Your lack of self-existence. So our deeds done under the influence of our renunciation and bodhicitta are the part of the seeds that when they ripen into our form body, which makes sense. What we do in this life towards others becomes what we're experiencing as Buddhas, our pleasant paradise, and our being what will help others. Always. Our wisdom seeds, our correct worldview, are the seeds that make our omniscience, which is the critical piece as your Buddha you, is the omniscience that knows directly what every being needs to give up and take up in order to free themselves from their own suffering, in order for them to become totally enlightened being. Without that, we wouldn't know directly how to help. So Buddhas that are already Buddhas, beings who have already reached this, These are the qualities they have. Paradise, emanation spontaneously, omniscient mind, and aware of the empty nature of themselves and all things simultaneously. I use the words a being who's a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom, because it's more meaningful to me. But knowing what I mean by it. And so we're growing our vocabulary. So now our top, our causes, our method side is collected by what we think, do, and say towards others. It's called the collection of merit. Where is it? Sunam Kisok. I'm not going to take the time to write it down. I'll write it for next week. Sunam Kisok. Our sharab seeds are made by our collection of wisdom. Yeshe Kisok. We collect these two collections by way of what we're perceiving ourselves thinking, saying, doing, and what we have on our mind as we're doing it. What we have on our mind as we're doing it is the collection of wisdom, or not, mostly not in my case. What we do is the collection of merit. So what makes the collection of merit is by having this bodhicitta, renunciation, and correct worldview in mind, which is our collection of wisdom as we're doing our kindnesses. General purpose, polite kindnesses that you already do. All we need to do now is infuse them with a new why we're doing them. To bring that person to ultimate happiness. That's not so hard. How do we remind ourselves? Stop and check from time to time. How many times did I have bodhicitta in mind in the last 2 hours? Once, there it is. Track. At the end of the day, think back. What were the 3 kindest things I did? Right? What was the level of my bodhicitta? What were the 3 most selfish things I did? Oh, nuts. I'll do better tomorrow. Right? Just simple tracking. Not really, I'm good, I'm bad, I did great, I'm lousy. Just tracking facts. You know? And when our mind knows we're watching, it behaves better. You know, it's a little schizophrenic. It's like, here's my watcher mind, and here's my me mind, and this one's the kid, and this one's the adult, right? And who's in charge here? Okay, so Lamso Namsam is the practice of making ourselves into this fully enlightened being, a being of love, compassion, wisdom. I didn't quite complete class. There's 2 more things. What stops us from actualizing this? And the answer is knowledge obstacles and bad thought obstacles. Just write that down. I'll explain them at the beginning of next class, right? But just write it down for your homework. What blocks us from Buddhahood is obstacles to knowledge and mental afflictions. Yeah. Uh-oh, one more. Please give me one extra minute. There's a question that says, how was it that Jetson Kappa was able to write, sorry, so voluminously? He didn't even have a computer. He didn't have the ALL database. He had direct connection to Manjushri, the deity whose specialty is wisdom. He had the goodness to be a channel, right, of wisdom, and he just took dictation. But he had created that goodness lifetimes before and earlier in that lifetime. And it's supposed to encourage us because we have the goodness to be manifesting these classes, these courses. Maybe we're not so far away from channeling Manjushri or Chenrezi or Tara or whoever, right? Your emptiness allows that it could happen. Why not consider it? Okay, now I will stop. So you have what you need to please do your homeworks, your quiz. Think about renunciation for your meditation. Write it down. Explore it. And recall that what we've done here is a great, great goodness. We have set in motion our ability to help that other in that deep and ultimate way someday, and that's extraordinary. So think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy guide. See how happy they are with you. Grow your gratitude to them. Ask them to please stay close to continue to inspire you and help you. And offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. Feel them there. That love, that compassion, that wisdom. You have access to it. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use 3 long exhales, share this goodness with that one person. Share it with everyone you love. Share it with every being you've ever seen. See them all filled with this happiness, this wisdom. And may it be so. All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Have a lovely weekend. I will see you on Monday. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lama. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to teacher Sarahni.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias.